tens of
dollars.
Thank you, sir.
All
right, online folks, thank you for your patience. I'm gonna turn it over to James and to start this meeting. Thanks, you're good to go.
Thank you. Sorry for the delay, everyone. Thank you for your patience. Just quickly say names as introductions and get moving to the other agenda items. My name is James Van Brinken. I'm one of the co-chairs here.
Hi, I'm Meredith McCray.
I'm Kevin Sarp.
Hi, Kevin Winchell with Charlottesville Community Bikes.
I'm Matt Dalton.
Doug Turnbull.
Herb Levy.
Albert Plun, Albemarle County.
Jen Fleischer, Blue Ridge Health District. Lee Mecklenburg, Transit Planner for East Charleston.
Jose Akin-Lilton, Long Range Planning Manager.
Kyle Rodland, the Safe Routes to School Coordinator for the city.
Carlos Benita, NDS Summer Intern.
And online, we have Ethan Tate, Josh Cron, and Mike Parisi. Thank you for joining us. Out of interest, can they speak if they want to?
They're all moved over to panelists and they have the ability to speak. Yes.
And we can have them if they want to speak.
Why don't we test it? Why don't they have them introduce themselves?
Sure. Ethan, could you try introducing yourself, please?
I will try. My name is Ethan Tate. I live in Martha Jefferson neighborhood and walk to Sunrise Elementary every day with my first grader.
Sweet, thank you. And Josh said he's just listening in at the moment, not participating. And we also have Mike. So feel free to, yeah.
Hi, everybody. Mike Parisi. I live in Rose Hill. Good to see everybody.
Awesome. Feel free to raise your hand on Zoom if you want to contribute. Okay, does anyone have any comments or objections to today's agenda or the meeting minutes from last, I guess, 2 months ago? No? Excellent. I'd only say thank you to Meredith for doing such a great job with the minutes. Does anyone have any public comments they'd like to make before feedback? Albert?
Should be out either tomorrow or early next week, but the first complete draft of our comp plan, our new one, will be released online soon. So you please read, enjoy. That's the comments. And also Freebridge Lane. I don't know if Peter was there as well, but the board has now approved of discontinuing Freebridge Lane. So it's going to be off the VDOT maintenance stuff, and it's going to be made into a park permanently. Improvements will come over time as funding and everything else is accumulated. So, but it's
Huzzah.
But it is
Well done.
done. It's not a pilot anymore. It's staying.
That's great news. Thanks, Albert. Next up, questions for staff. Hopefully you've all had a chance to read the staff updates if you're so inclined, and this is an opportunity to ask questions. We have a lot of staff here today. Thank you for coming. I think it was just Tommy and Carl of the people here who were involved in the staff update, so we can ask them about it if you have any questions.
Well, no, yeah.
Here's a question. Maybe it's a you guys question, maybe Albert question, but is there a public meeting about Ridge McIntyre next week? When is that happening?
Yes, there is a Ridge McIntyre Stars meeting the 14th at 6 at Carver. That's off the top of my head.
Okay, I'll look it up and I'll put it on.
Yeah, but there is a meeting for that Stars project. We haven't had ours yet.
So now that we've got
Public comment,
inventory of
questions
the
for
bike
staff.
lanes, what are we going to do to make them safe? Watching a movie last night that was filmed in Paris, and I saw a really interesting thing apparently that they do to make the bike lane safe. They take sections of Jersey barrier, just a couple of feet at a time and drop a few of them rather than waiting to get a whole lane of them blocked off. And it seemed elegant to me because cars are just simply not going to move over to a place where going straight ends up hitting a Jersey barrier. So an elegant way to fairly quickly get cars past that magic piece of paint that's supposed to keep me safe.
It's a great idea, a kind of compromise between cheap as a quick build, but also scary for a driver. Kind of more noticeable to a driver than those flex posts that they can just drive over.
Ethan has his hand raised.
Thank you. Ethan?
Hey, yeah, just I think this was on the staff report about safe routes to school. A shout out to whoever was responsible for both Fairway lane markers and Hazel lane markers and all the posts that went there. I was just curious about kind of that lower section of Hazel closest to East High. And I know at one point the safe routes to school plan included a crosswalk across Hazel and down Ward to get to the back entrance of Sunrise. And I was just wondering if there's a reason that Hazel has stopped where it is, or if there's anything more to say about like future plans and that lower part of Hazel. But overall, very happy with the progress.
Hey, Ethan, it's Tommy. So the project that went on Hazel was part of the emergency transportation projects that have been going around. I think Kyle first kind of suggested it during our planning process, in part because of the safe route to school connector. That design has shifted a number of times to what it became. And there was a lot of pushback from your neighbors on that lower section of Hazel to continue the lane markings from Gillespie down to your street. We were going to have to remove not only a lot of parking, but to be honest with you, we weren't really looking at adding a yellow stripe line down Hazel at first. Traffic engineer, the fire department, both came out and said we need X, Y, and Z, and that's what we were able to fit in that corridor. We weren't really able to accommodate anything more. There wasn't enough right of way between Gillespie and your street to continue that lane striping down to the lower part. But just to reiterate, I think that project it turned out really well. It is now providing safe passage because the elimination of parking across from Riverside with a lack of sidewalk. Students can now cross East High and then have a little bit of protection as they make their way up to your street and over to Sunrise Elementary. I think the conversation about continuing adding crosswalks is ongoing, specifically there, especially with the hopeful Tier 1 Hazel sidewalk project getting implemented in the near future. Does that make sense?
Yeah, great. Thanks. And I'll be curious to talk offline with you about other things we could do there, people we should talk to, but that's super helpful. Thanks.
Awesome. Any more questions for staff?
Yeah, I had a quick question. This could also be something we talk about offline. I'm looking for a golf cart on September 13th from 12 to 6 p.m. Rose Hill is having a block party at Washington Park. And as part of that, 10th Street is mostly going to be blocked off. And we've got some seniors in the neighborhood I want to make sure can attend. So I don't know if the city has a golf cart or one of y'all in the room know where we can rent one or borrow one. But yeah, let me know.
Mike, why didn't you just ask all the golf cart people at West Haven on Saturday?
Well, that's the inspiration. But I'm a little slow, so it took me a while to put everything together.
Well, we have a couple golf courses in the city, but yeah, I'm sure we can figure something out.
Rickshaw?
Yeah, well, you guys, where did you guys get
Jake
that
has
one?
one.
Oh, that's his?
It's blurry, but I think it's his.
There's a trike right here at your shop.
There is, someone cool dropped it off.
Rickshaw.
Cool. Yeah, like I said, I'll probably contact some of y'all directly at some point. But yeah, just wanted to get the gears turning. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, Mike. Moving along to
Can I just highlight a couple things?
pausing where we are. Yep.
Well, I just want to make sure that when you're reading through the staff updates, that it's not, Kyle and I are the only ones here that updated it, but I got a lot of input from public works project managers, and there is an upcoming event on here at City Space on August 20th for the Barrack Streetscape project. So you guys should put that on your calendar. Yes.
And thank you for sending those presentations from Public Works. That was interesting. Okay. Next.
Sorry, I'm a bit slow. So that's a city-run meeting then. So VDOT's not gonna have any information about it.
I think VDOT might be here.
Okay.
But it's the
Where
city
would we find
managed
more
project
information?
through HSIP.
Where would we find?
Or no, that's a smart scale project.
Right.
So VDOT should be, yeah, so I sent a follow-up email to James's email with staff updates with the presentations.
Okay, great.
Slides. And there's some information in the staff updates about what that project is
Okay,
now.
it's in the stuff.
Yes. The slides aren't though, those are in a separate email, follow-up email.
Okay, moving on. Next item is an item from Jen and Tommy about a potential neighborhood walk audit program thing, BPAC helping out somehow sort of thing.
Great.
You want to introduce that for us?
So the Charlottesville Area Alliance is a coalition of community members and some retired executive directors of other nonprofits that get together with a focus on older adults and keeping older adults engaged in their community. So like reducing isolation and improving connections to community. So one of their work groups is a transportation work group, which I run with Lucinda Shannon, who is part of TJPDC, and she runs the Partnership for Accessible Transportation Help, which is called PAC. And CAA gets an AARP technical grant every year to get support from AARP to execute kind of small projects within a community. So this year, what we've done is interview bus riders and would-be riders and gather stories from transit users in order to promote and encourage and incentivize using CAT and Jaunt and other services, as well as kind of gather feedback for transit providers to understand problems and issues riders have. So that's an example of one of the grants. What CAA would like to do for the next cycle is assist in a project that kind of Tommy planted in one of our meetings as almost a wish list idea, which is have a repository of walk audits for every neighborhood in Charlottesville to start with that's version 1.0. Ultimately, it would be an Albemarle as well. But to to have a very standardized set of walk audits that Tommy and staff can pull at any time and say, all right, we're ready to work in Rose Hill neighborhood. Let's look at what the neighbors have said in that neighborhood needs doing, what's quick build, what's more permanent, what do we need to go back to them at? So that the standardization is the key here in the process, because though we use an AAR, generally walk audits are done with an AARP template. There's the organizing of the walk audit, the participants and the feedback generated are not all going into one place, and they're not all being kind of crafted in a very standardized way that helps Tommy pull that data quickly. And so on our call, I was said to Tommy, like, who could help execute? We have the AARP template. He's been doing neighborhood walks. We did a walk audit with Sive and Mike Parisi and other city staff as a pilot project through Virginia Walkability Institute. I'm shortening that. That's not the full name. Virginia Walkability Action Institute. We were wondering if there's a way, or is there a place for BPAC to fit into this concept and help execute it, knowing that it takes someone to do the outreach, the organizing, the capturing of the data, and the positing and maintaining of the data captured. So hence the looseness of James not knowing really what we were doing, and it's in concept phase and seeing what you guys think. Because CAA is not a nonprofit, it's just a group of concerned residents. AARP grants run up to $50,000. The technical grants are usually somewhere around $10,000 to $20,000. They usually come with a consultant that can help, but often that consultant is not local. So those funds could be transferred to help produce this repository. But wanted to throw that idea out, let it percolate, ask some questions, see if there is another group that might be a good fit that could help kind of execute on this idea, make it happen, see if we could apply for that grant and try and get those sorted. So.
Is there any like liability, financial like concerns where like some random person can't just like volunteer to do that?
Not that I know of. I mean, Tommy, do you have liability issues with your weekly, with your Sunday walks?
Everything's under the city. I mean, I'm quote leading, even though I tend to try not to consider a lead, by the city, more if we are a host like this meeting of the neighborhood walks, and we try to get neighborhood residents kind of be the leaders. But it's a program under the city in terms of liability. In terms of something that is done, I mean, the way it's been done in the past with either the safe routes to school audits or all these other type of audits that people do, we don't know. I guess we could ask our risk, management folks, but that question, but I really see it being, it's not far out of what people do from day to day.
Yeah, I think Matt's got, that's a great question though, because you're saying, come with us, like, do you sign a liability waiver when you walk in?
Maybe I'm just misunderstanding the like correlation between like funding and like, getting all that kind of like organized and consolidated, because like data, privacy, all that stuff is growing more and more complicated these days.
Right. Like what would the funding be for, basically?
Yeah, because I got the insinuation that you guys might be able to use some of the funds to like pay someone. But
exactly.
If someone was just going to volunteer to like consolidate all this data and put it in a unified form, like could they just do that?
They can just do that, because you don't capture in the walk audit any private information. You're just capturing feedback. So that could be, for example, a role for BPAC. We could have a walk audit subcommittee, and those three people are the ones who consolidate and evaluate and put that very standardized feedback into a spreadsheet and make sure that it's searchable for Tommy and staff, you know.
Two follow-up things I just want to say. Number one, this information is not only helpful to have kind of as a repository so that like when projects bubble up in certain corridors and neighborhoods that we have on hand and I can say, hey, this is what the community is saying. But this is, they're noticing these things at certain times a day, as opposed to when I go walk Ridge McIntyre on a Friday afternoon at 2:00, and that's our one-time experience as a group, right? Like this would be a repository of information that people are noticing at all times of the day, at all times of the year, because it changes, and not knowing and not collecting information from when a street looks a certain way in the winter versus the summer, or at night versus the day, is like that, like really important information.
And that's the addition to, I mean, that is what we're not capturing right now. Yeah.
And the other thing is, and why I asked Osei to come, is we'll follow into the next topic for our meeting. But I see collecting feedback, Osei, as an important component that would from neighborhoods that would fall like kind of in what you're trying to do. So I don't know if this is an opportunity for you to like give feedback and update. I see your hand was raised, so I don't know what.
Yeah, so my question to you was going to be if we can utilize community members, because just like Mike showed up for Rose Hill, he was able to pull more of his community into that as well.
Totally.
So is there an opportunity to compensate community members or whoever would lead that specific walk? And also what Tommy was saying, where they would be able to do it in multiple times of the year.
Exactly. I think that the grant for ARP, that's one of the things it can pay for is the compensation. Bridging, like if we wanted to start it before the grant season, the health department can compensate under the same way that we did for Rose Hill. There's probably about 100 gift cards left to do that. But so we would probably want to get one neighborhood like during the seasons and get that, spread that out through there. But
so I was thinking, sorry, Tommy, I was thinking about something else where we have like one designated person per neighborhood and that person would be compensated, not in the $25 for everyone who comes out, but to actually have someone who is compensated for leading this.
For leading. I don't see why not. I think the way the grant is given is very much about supporting the pilot in any way. It doesn't seem to have limitations on it from my experience right now, but I think it's a great question. And so, yeah, so there is like a mic for every neighborhood so that I'm just repeating back to you, make sure I got it. So there's a mic for every neighborhood that gathers the walkers at different times of year. And that mic is compensated for those 4 walks. But the participants are volunteers. Or are you envisioning the participants are also compensated?
Yes.
Okay, super, great.
So couple things on that. Number one, it'd be interesting to tease out who's leading it so that we can answer Matt's question about liability. Because if this is a grant coming from the health department through ARP that BPAC's managing, that the city is kind of like quasi-partner on of sorts and that we reap the benefits of, then I don't really see the liability being an issue. But if we're more managing that process, then we and paying people, that's the key thing. I think for sure we want to run that by risk management and Philip and figure that out. But it really dives into what I really want to talk about, which is neighborhood associations. And I wrote this and I just updated the agenda, versus neighborhood leaders.
Yes.
And if everyone's not aware, there is a neighborhood leaders program that the city runs, and they meet in this room here once a year on Zoom, quarterly or whatever. And sometimes those leaders and neighborhood association folks do not talk to each other, and the leaders or the neighborhood associations are not, every neighborhood is different. And I see an opportunity here with OSA now kind of taking that program over to kind of rethink that program or those programs. And with the discussions being had with this group about how do we make BPAC more representative across the entire city? Is that?
Yeah, so you've got two different things. So like, it would not, just to be super explicit, it would not be a Blue Ridge sponsored thing. It would be a Charlottesville Area Alliance gets the grant from AARP, and then they could write an MOU with the city, but if the money is coming from the city, you're right, that would have to be a logistical thing that happens. And the goal and purpose of that project would be, where does BPAC intersect in that project? Are they the ones writing the reports? Are they the ones identifying the neighborhood leaders? Are they ones not doing anything? They're just putting it on their calendar. Who knows? And then there are neighborhood leaders who could be identified and participate in that and maybe even compensated for that work, or they're a totally separate thing that OC will soon hear about does a thing for. But I think you've got a couple ideas kind of going on there.
But I think, just real quick, Peter, there are different things. I totally see that, but I see a lot of opportunity for, like, instead of everything working in silos.
Oh, yeah.
Things working like together. When OCS would send out emails quarterly before those meetings to us employees about, hey, these are questions for the neighborhood leaders. 80% of them were about transportation and like biking and walking, scooters, and even congestion for that matter. So that is like one of the primary discussion points within that group. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's interesting, and that's kind of connected to what I was going to ask about. So Rose Hill is, I mean, it's great that Mike was able to lead that. Rose Hill is not typical in the sense that the person who is a leader of the neighborhood also cares deeply about walking and biking. And so that's something that needs to be sort of teased out. So who your leader and who your walk leader and your social hub are probably not the same person in most neighborhoods. Thinking about the Meadows, for example, like the Meadows is a place where there's real walkability issues. And it's also really hard to connect to the people, right? It's hard to get a hold of them, find out what they want. If you want to know what Belmont wants, it's easy. If you want to find out what 10th and Page wants, it's easy. But the Meadow is way harder. So if you could have somebody whose job it is to go like connect and get your community people out. And then you could have a small number of trained leaders who can also be city residents that are trained for whatever goals we want to meet. I think that's really smart, because otherwise you get like the groups that are like, you know, advocacy ready. And those are the neighborhoods that get your action. And that may not be the same as what the city's goals are.
Sorry, Matt, can I just follow up for you? So I definitely agree. I think the neighborhood leaders is just the entrance into the neighborhoods. So they may not be the same person. Plus, they may be overtaxed or overwhelmed.
Exactly.
Additionally, Mike Parisi, who served as the long-range planning intern, his major project for the summer was one-pagers or fact sheets for each of the neighborhoods, which has demographic information, walkability information, as well as how to contact the neighborhoods. Yeah. And so we have a resource now for you to utilize. So it's not just you are connecting to the same few neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So I'll share that with Tommy, just because it's not on the website yet.
I'm gonna say it's just, yeah, I need to get those.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll send them to you now.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be great if we could get one for Greenbrier ahead of Greenbrier's walk, for example.
Oh, it's already completed. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, Matt.
I'm glad you went first, because that like consolidated a lot of my thoughts. So basically I'm just looking to kind of consolidate what you and Tommy are looking for. So like, it sounds like the person who's looking to consolidate all this data to make it easily accessible for Tommy and whoever else wants to pull it. Then the purpose of the neighborhood walks is to be like, oh, this sidewalk in that area and this, like, that's the goal of those, right?
Mhm.
So you want a way to unify that data. So the person who is unifying the data, are they responsible for checking in with neighborhood leaders to like, hey, I see that you haven't like updated anything in 7 months. And then we need like that one person to consolidate and manage, and then to have people that are voluntold or volunteered to like be neighborhood leaders.
Yeah, it could be, yeah.
But yeah, before we respond to all of that, I want to say one thing we haven't described as a component of the goals of this project that we've been speaking about in staff is bus stop catchments. So there's in public transit right now, I think most people know that the position that I've taken is relatively new to the city. And so there's a lot that I'm able to identify and start to lead on. And one of those things has been a bus stop inventory. So that's the specific sites that buses are stopping at, the actual amenities that are at that one point location. But there's also the multimodal access to those stops that I don't have eyes on, and I don't have the ability to go to every single sidewalk in the city and to look at that connection with the lens of connection to public transit. So one thing that would be really helpful and another use of this audit is to make sure that it's asking questions about connection to public transit. And so I think that's an additional component. We're still talking about what questions might need to be added to the main AARP guides that you would typically use. They have additional transit guides, but we may want to flex those questions a little bit to be most appropriate to our community. But just to speak to that, I know most people in the room typically are here for pedestrian and cyclist experiences, but we're also looking at transit rider experiences in accessing where you get on the bus.
So I think you're right. I mean, we have not flushed anything out. We were just like, oh, it's going to take a lot of people to make this happen, which is what you're saying like.
That's
look,
sort of what it's built up to in my mind.
Yeah, it's gonna take, a data management team that's connected to a leadership an engagement team, and then the project manager to make sure it all comes together. I can see that happening. So I think that's when we were like, let's see if BPAC has ideas about how to kind of get a grant that could fund this even as a pilot for a year, so they get all the seasons, and where there might be a role for us. And again, that role may be like, you've got to find an organization that will staff this and will put it on the BPAC website, the Seville Walks website. So
I think a decent start may be just like getting the list consolidated and sort of have a punch list so that there's at least some order for the neighborhood walk audits. Like that's where I feel like the best amount of effort and best, because that's going to be a required step no matter what. And it can, like, if anyone shows up for the walk, or if just Tommy goes and does it, like he can be like, oh, okay, yeah, what do the sidewalks look like near the bus stops? And like, are there any power lines down so Kevin Cox doesn't come and yell? Like, is like having that template and spreadsheet will be the cornerstone of having unified data. And I think.
But I think the important
some
part of looping in community is that it's not just, is there presently a power line down, but it's, okay, is this an area that frequently ponds when it rains, and that somebody with a wheelchair doesn't have a curb cut that they can navigate around it to get to the bus stop. So there's those like experiential questions about the environment, that there are many different environmental factors that you're not going to observe in one or even 4 seasonal audits. So there's a little bit of a like over time community knowledge that we want to mine in this data collection.
Maybe what I can do is, you're getting me a little more organized on this. Like, we have the template already. We need to add the bus catchment into that template perhaps. And so I can provide BPAC, like, here's what a template of a walk audit looks like based on the AARP one, which in general is pretty usable. It's been flushed out and used for quite some time. And here's the roles I think we need from what we're hearing from, and here's how we tie into Ose's thing, and here's how we tie into Tommy needs, like a rough pass at that. And then we can kind of keep looking at that and say, you know what, this is not a fit for anybody on BPAC, or we're all volunteers too, and we'll show up for the walks, but not, we can kind of decide from there. So we'll give it a little more kind of fencing in and see if take it from there. Would that be helpful, or would there be critical pieces in that beyond the template and the roles that you would want to see to carry on the conversation?
I think that would be great. what you're suggesting. Something for us to react to and something, that defines the potential roles, even if it's just kind of optional structures, optional organizations, so we could see where might we fit in.
It sounds like what she wants to add, which is like really important, like does involve engagement and accountability, which are way harder to institute than like checklists and
Totally.
spreadsheets.
Yeah, because you want like someone in a mobility device there, someone pushing a kid in a stroller, someone who's older.
And you have to do a walk in the rain.
And you have to,
Or people who have done those things
Yeah,
and
exactly.
don't necessarily do it in that 1
And that
hour.
person has to show up to like, so.
Yeah.
Or there's a feedback component.
Yeah.
People can,
yeah,
locals know those things, but locals don't have to be out there. Ideally, they would be,
but the contact for each community
Yeah,
that
that's
Osei
super
was talking about was like the key in my mind where, like, is this person gonna have easy connections to like get feedback where we don't have to knock on everyone's door?
Yeah, because is there a way also, if we're talking about like feeding two birds with one stone, how can we pull in my CVL data to that, to standardize it? Because people are always throwing in pictures and things in real time, so we should use that as well. So I think that's kind of part of it. Super.
We have one. I could see this living in multiple different ways. We can structure the organization in multiple different ways. It could fall within neighborhood leaders. But this could also fall in under a new organization within BPAC too. I know at one point there was discussion about trying to identify more members within this committee from different neighborhoods. So we haven't talked about that in a while. Or it could be both. But obviously that goes back to what Osei said, and that's capacity issues from our neighbors.
May I ask, when was the last time you made a call for members?
Oh, I don't know.
Yes, our charter, which is up on the website, is pretty loose for this committee. It is anyone can show up and be a member after joining us for 2 meetings. In terms of a call for more members, I think I've just been trying to make this committee be more available and aware to the greater public. We can talk about how we can try to recruit more people to join us at the meetings.
Yeah, I think if we send some language to the neighborhood leaders or associations, then more potential members would join. But again, like you mentioned, they could just send it out to the entire directory that they have and we'll get some interest. We did that for the path, the path work, and Lord knows how many emails I received back from that. But yeah, they're pretty engaged.
And the city actively recruits for other boards and commissions. And that's been sort of a weakness with this group, is it doesn't know if it's a board or a commission, and it isn't either one of them. So
we'll go beyond that. We are a committee. We're not a board or a commission. And there's 2 different types of committees. We are not city council appointed, which has allowed us to do a lot of things that board commissions and other committees can't do.
True.
So there is a lot of flexibility within this committee because of that. But there's also some downsides.
So, but the mayor of Charlottesville does read in the announcements, like come give to a blood drive, or they do all kinds of stuff. It's not boards and commissions. So, I mean, just actively going out and doing a recruitment drive, which we haven't done in the whole. Have we ever done a drive? That's a great idea.
Well, this is small potatoes, but that's why the neighborhood walks are presented by BPAC. They're a BPAC neighborhood walk. Right. So that it's a small thing, but it it is, I want that awareness to grow and grow and grow.
It works that way.
What does the Google group like list look like? Like how many people get the emails?
120 at the moment.
That's up from 40 when I first joined 2 years ago.
Wow.
Or started this.
And for context, these meetings are better attended than they've ever been. So
Interesting.
this is a nice segue into the next item, because we there are kind of two parts of a membership drive. There's trying to get more of anyone, more bodies, more opinions, more people in the room. And then there's trying to get more representative body of people to form the advisory committee. And BPAC's never been representative of the city as a whole. It's always skewed white and wealthy. And I think the committee, having read kind of through the minutes, through the years, through like 13, 14 years of it, there have been a number of discussions about how do we get more people, how do we hear from a more diverse set of views, and it's never worked. Essentially, I don't see that it's ever been successful. And so when we talked about this, we talked about maybe the goal isn't that we want to get more people in the room. Not everyone's available on Thursday evening for a monthly meeting. Maybe the goal should be, how do we get out to the community and talk to them and see them where they're at and hear from them. And so that's something that the Neighborhood Walks has done well. We've talked about getting tents and tablecloth to be present at some community events. And I don't think it's one or the other. I'm not trying to say that we shouldn't get more people here if we can, but I also don't want to lose sight of going out into the community and being present and being an organization that is known by enough people that people know if they have a bike or pedestrian issue that they can come to us. Not only that they can come to us and we're a venue, but also that something may happen if they do come to us. Anyway, that's a short introduction to the next item, which is some specific outreach opportunities coming up in the next month or two. And we have, they're all slightly different outreach opportunities. And I want to touch on all of them briefly. There are some that are quite specific, like Loopville and the Bike Social at UVA, and there are some that are.
I added a couple to the
Okay. Do you want to start by talking about some of them? The ones that you're.
I can. Well, let me just point out that I did add a couple more, and at some point I'd like to post it and maybe give an update on the program that you're trying to get about collecting feedback as well. If you're okay. No? Okay.
Collecting feedback, I'm sorry, you threw me off.
What's that?
You threw me off about collecting feedback.
Yeah, from residents.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just added on here, Meredith, I just said neighborhood associations and or leaders, question mark. And I have an event that I'm partnering with UVA, Parking and Transportation on, UVA Health in VO on the 29th of August. That may not be an event that makes sense for BPAC to physically be there, but maybe that's an opportunity to highlight that this committee exists at that event. But that's going to be focused around scooter and bike safety to specifically new students at UVA. I also added the Rosedale Block Party on there. We have a week without driving on here, and maybe in a sec, I'll have you talk about that, Zoe. Loop DeVille Trail Fest on September 27th is up here. Loop DeVille, if you don't know, is an event some of you very much know because you helped me organize it. But that's to kind of get people out on our amazing trail network here in Charlottesville. If you don't know the history of biking and walking master plans within the city, the RCF, or Urbana Trail Foundation, really helped spearhead the first one in 2003. We try to get people walking or biking or running the 20-mile loop. There's options to do less or more, but loopdeville.org. I think that would be a great place for BPAC to be present. There's a lot of issues. People use the RC for recreation, but also transportation. We have UVA back to school on here. So again, that would kind of fall in maybe with that event on the 20th. As James said, there's a UVA bike socials. Shannon from UVA Sustainability reached out to us. I also threw on here, the last one is Halloween. Ethan, if you're listening. Ethan, a while ago, after last year's Halloween, thought that might be an opportunity for us as a group to be a little bit more present within the community. It's a lot of people out walking in the dark. And I think that maybe we could talk a little bit about how we can, encourage that, but also find ways to make it safer.
And that's also the daylight savings death date also, where traffic fatalities skyrocket right after daylight savings because people are they're driving in a rush hour condition, but it's now dark suddenly. And a lot of people get killed. Miss Montague, I think, was killed in that.
Yeah, and Tommy, if I remember correctly, I think we had chatted about maybe doing some sort of a reflective bracelet or glow in the dark, glow stick or something that just went home with every elementary schooler and middle schooler in the city or something like that. And we could, potentially brand that thing. Ideally, it's not too wasteful, but there would be some way to connect walking around in your neighborhood at night with BPAC to, again, hopefully connect with a large cross section of the community, and just it's another touch so that people are aware of this is the kind of thing we care about. And even if they're not going to join us every month, there's a place that you can bring these concerns to.
Yeah, and Ethan, I was also saying the city also has a, what's it called, trick truck event on the downtown mall a couple days before Halloween. That might be an opportunity to maybe hand out those bracelets. I haven't had much luck finding things that work well, but if anyone has any links, send me that stuff. I did buy a bunch of reflecting snap bracelets that weren't very reflective, it turns out. But also, Peter, PEC's Halloween ride, I want to promote that really well this year.
We have to organize.
Halloween ride. I already got my costume. I have a new one.
No, okay. We're gonna do it.
I am so stoked for that costume. You have no idea how awesome it is.
All right.
I got two now. If anyone needs one.
Yes, very fun.
Yes. So there's a bunch more. I mean, to be honest with you, West Haven Day this past Saturday was awesome. I saw a bunch of you all there, but there wasn't a BPAC presence, and there could have been. And I think we missed an opportunity there, but I think we should I know that was on James. You kind of came up with the list at one point, and I think there might be other ones on your list there too. I don't remember off the top of my head, but that would have been a great opportunity to have a BPAC presence at West Haven Day on Saturday. Even if it was sharing a table with community bikes and having some stuff to promote BPAC I think would have been a great thing.
So I wanted to hear from people if we do something like that, if we go to West Haven Day or Roseville Block Party or.
James, before you ask for feedback, I just want to give a brief summary of the Week Without Driving, so we can also react to that. So Week Without Driving is a national challenge that came out of disability rights advocacy in Washington State. Anyone who went to the Louisville Seville webinar with Anna Zebarts, who wrote the book When Driving's Not an Option, this is coming out of her advocacy. And I have started having a couple conversations with different partners around the city about what it would look like in Charlottesville to take on this challenge as community members, as community leaders, and also as a talking point. I think a lot of people in this room probably are aware that the fiscal year 26 city budget conversations highlighted transit a lot, and that those conversations have led into conversations already starting for fiscal year 27, which doesn't start until next June or July. So I think this is top of mind for a lot of folks in the civic space and budget conversations about prioritization and how we want Charlottesville to look. And I'm really interested in seeing this as an opportunity for people to think about who public transit is for. And the folks that typically are using transit in Charlottesville and the folks that also could be using transit in Charlottesville, and what it would look like to make it more accessible for everyone. That's a start. I'm happy to say more later.
Sure. So, are you hoping to have events?
I'm hoping that this is the first year of us joining, kind of signing on as a city that does it. If you go to weekwithoutdriving.org, there's a lot of logos of people who have, or organizations, entities that have signed on to it. TGPDC and City of Charlottesville could sign on, other local partners could sign on. It could be kind of a challenge I would be willing to take the challenge as a city staff member to go 7 days without personally driving your own car. So you can ask for rides, you can pay for rides, you can take pedestrian or bike alternatives, you can take the bus, you just can't drive yourself. And if you do fail, because you have to, then you note that as part of something being inaccessible to you without the privilege of having your own license and your own personal automobile. And I think that information, especially if we were able to capture it in some way, would really help inform this prioritization and community understanding, not just council member or city leader understanding, but community understanding of what transit means for Charlottesville. So I think there's multiple, the timing is really great. It's actually going to be the week after Loop de Ville. So there could be a sign up sheet for the challenge at Loop de Ville if there was a collaboration there. We've had conversations about doing a e-bike demo kind of the week before, so that folks who wanted to try out an e-bike from the e-bike library, there aren't a ton of options. There's only a limited fleet there, but that could be an opportunity. I'd be open to other collaborations. The van pool that TGPDC runs, the rideshare that TGPDC runs, could be a resource available to folks who want to figure out how to get around Charlottesville without their own personal car. And we've also talked about potentially figuring out journey mapping, either in advance of the event or asking folks to kind of be spotlighted for a day, each one person a day for the week, of what it looks like for them to get around their day-to-day life and maybe what sacrifices they've had to make by virtue of not being able to use their normal mode of transit or transportation. So open to more ideas, open to more collaborations, but I wanted to bring that to the group here and see what the interest would be.
Hey, James, I just want to say we're in a new space. We started late, but we have a hard out because there's a meeting right after us.
Starting at 6:30?
Correct.
Okay. So thank you for that, Zoe. That kind of broadens my question. I was starting with, for the events like Loop de Ville, Roseville Block Party, West Haven, if we've been there, we would set up with a table. That's kind of the mode of engagement. I was wondering if people have ideas for what we would do there. Why would we be there? What would we be asking? What would we be telling or giving? You know, what could some forms of engagement be at those sorts of events? And I'd expand the question for events like Week Without Driving, where it's more of a kind of publicity push, different types of engagement. What do people think?
E-bike demo is always a decent draw, if that can be orchestrated. which I think is gonna tie into like any kind of week without driving. Even like the thought of loading of baskets full of groceries in my pannier bag on my commuter bike and like riding up to Wegmans and then down and back home is like, yeah, I can do it, but like, can I just take my car?
You could just go to Food Lion. Then you don't have to go up the hill.
We probably will want to do an e-bike demo anyway in October, and we could probably sync it up with the first week of October, since that's the next round of signups are in October for the e-bike voucher program. But we could talk about how those are maybe more impact.
Right, the challenge is that those things happen, like what are we doing there?
Well, what's the incentive for being on BPAC? You get city staff's ear, you get to put your ideas for better transportation into the pot. I mean, like, we should table the why.
Yeah, and or like, and the idea of just being out in the community and being focused about like what we're asking of community members. So there could be a version of like, what are your concerns? I mean, I guess, but like, generic city, table isn't gonna do that, but there could be creative ways to pull people to hear what their like neighborhood concerns are. Or, I mean, now that we are taking a more like methodical approach to like area planning, small area plans, like being out in front and like, here is some questions that are gonna be coming up in your community. Let's hear about that. And so those are two good sort of strategies rather than being like, we gotta fix BPAC. That assumes that the rest of the world cares about the fate of BPAC. And,
So two things, I know we're on a time crunch. So those one pagers also have, if available, or if they actually complete it in the neighborhood, larger scale neighborhood events. They also have their meetings. So if you wanted to join for one of those events or one of those meetings, you have that information readily available through that one pager. I guess three things. So the second thing is we're going to build out the neighborhood leaders website with information for each of the 19 neighborhoods, just like we did for the one pagers. We're also trying to create communication strategies for each of these neighborhoods to determine or to share with everyone how they would actually like to be engaged. I've only been here 6 months, so bear with me, we need some time. The last thing, shoot, that threw me off. The table, sorry. Oh, no, I lost it, sorry.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
There you go.
Are those published anywhere online yet?
So they are published, but not really. I sent Tommy the 19 pages, the 19 fact sheets, so he will get that out to you.
Okay.
Yeah, we're.
When that's online somewhere or available electronically, can that just be emailed to all of BPAC? The 19 fact sheets?
Yeah, I sent it to you. Go ahead, send it.
I mean, I'm just at like.
Oh, yeah, they're welcome to be shared.
So what I'll do, does it make sense to upload them to the Google Drive and you can live on the Google Drive and then I can share folks the folder to that drive?
Now I remember the last thing. So sorry, Matt. We are going to acquire a public engagement platform as well. And so that will be another opportunity. I know you have your website, but it allows feedback, mapping, different things like that. So we should have that this fall.
So once again, glad that I waited because that basically like, I think a big problem is that people obviously care about stuff, like they want their sidewalks to be safe, they want their kids to be able to get to school safely and like be able to get around town. But like, ironically, in the world of information, there's so much that you have to like parse through that it's just like overwhelming sometimes. Like stuff that I care deeply about, I have to dig to find or like show up to a meeting or whatever. And so like some kind of portal, like the RTF cards are awesome because it's got a QR code and it like that someone scans it with their phone and they get all the information they want. Like to be able to have that type of thing to like hand out a BPAC card where someone can kind of like, all of a sudden they can get their finger on the pulse really easily. And if they show up for meetings or give feedback, then they can do that if they want, but at least they'll have knowledge and information, which.
Yeah, consolidated dashboard sounds pretty awesome. That has bike walk and that stuff on it would be amazing.
Like,
Yeah,
I
that's
wish
what I
every
mean.
knowledge subject had that.
I
Like, if
know.
Like, I wanna learn about politics, QR code, I wanna learn about community level, like, and you just still filter down and like.
I mean, I think, James, like, your question about what would we do there? To me, it goes back to the first topic a little bit of like, we're trying to raise this community's like presence into the greater part of our community. So that we can not only solicit their feedback in a more consolidated, collaborative way, and we can make good decisions moving forward. But then, and good decisions and actually make the decisions. Instead of circling around and talking about it, we can maybe strengthen this committee through a greater voice.
Which was
The people who care about these things. I get Carlos' first week here, when his neighbors found out his job, they all wanted to know about what's going on, why are they doing this, why are they doing that?
There it is, an easy plug-in. Like you were just there and they're like, oh, I want this information, I care about it, give it to me.
Well, not only that, today was the first day of giving back the e-vouchers. And we had all four of the people that came out were like, this is an incredible thing that I did not know that was happening. One of them was from the West Haven neighborhood, and she was like all on board. She wants to know more information, but she genuinely didn't know where to go. And that's one of the neighborhoods that, has a population that could really use this kind of thing. That a presence at West Haven could have expanded to a population that we that wants it to happen.
How did she hear about the bike?
She told me that she saw a flyer but didn't trust it until she did a little bit more research and said that she saw that it was coming from City Hall. And that's when she was like, okay, let me jump on this opportunity. But she said she had never really interacted with anything with like the city government or anything related to this kind of thing.
I think she actually found out about it. She got the flyer through Prolific Run Club, because I shared it. And some folks shared it with me. We have multiple people in West Haven who got the voucher this time.
Okay, so it sounds like what I'm hearing is that there are a lot of people in the city who want to get more plugged in and don't know how.
Yeah, it's very much like that, what you said, with all that noise of information out there, that it's hard and it's easy to just get lost in and just feel discouraged. So really going out there and putting up the word really does make a difference, even if it's just one person. One person can share out to even more.
Yeah. So it seems like we have two functions. One is hearing from folks in the community and channeling that up to city staff, but also an equally important function perhaps is taking the things that are happening in the city, all the stuff that's going on, and being a source where people can hear about it and make a one-stop shop for what's going on.
One thing I would add to that, and like Ose, I've been with Charlottesville for a very short period of time, so I'm not sure how this group has conceived of itself before I started attending. But you're speaking as if BPAC is not community. like you're speaking as that there's the separation between BPAC and a broader community, and I think there's value in considering like the level of invitation to outside of BPAC community being part of, not just served by BPAC.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you.
Someone raise their hand on the Zoom.
Okay. Ethan?
Yeah, I was just kind of in thinking about these outreach opportunities. I was thinking a lot about all of Tommy's work in Bike Month and everybody else behind the scenes, I'm sure. I feel like, you know, speaking for myself, but suspecting that there's others affiliated with BPAC that would be on board with it. Like, I was happy to show up at a couple of those Bike Month things. I'd be happy to show up at these various community outreach events. I'm sure others would be also, but that takes a level of coordination that doesn't just kind of magically happen. It requires, you know, somebody setting up the sign up Genius poll and monitoring it and sending out the reminder email ahead of time and figuring out what happens when someone cancels at the last minute. Like, I'm happy to volunteer. I don't have the bandwidth to kind of coordinate all of the volunteerism for BPAC things. I don't know if there's somebody within City Hall that kind of handles all of the citizen volunteer stuff. But like that, having done that like professionally for a number of years in a number of different ways, like that's like a whole career in and of itself. And so like I am 100% on board with BPAC members need to be out at kind of every conceivable event that has some possible bike and pedestrian advocacy angle. But in order to do that, it's not just like us sitting in this meeting saying, sure, I'll do that, and then show up. That like there's a whole infrastructure that may or may not already exist, but we've got to think about that before we just, you know, say we want to do all these things.
So I totally agree, Ethan. I think there might be a couple instances where like BPAC might want to consider to do their own thing and then coordinate those efforts by themselves. But at the same time, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about here are kind of pre-existing programs or events that we're seeing how BPAC might fit within it. And there's opportunities to kind of like, you know, not have to build the whole thing up by ourselves. I'm not advocating for us to be like creating whole new events out of nothing. Even just coordinating who from BPAC is going to show up at back to school night at Sunrise Elementary School, like that still requires a point person. It still requires a level of communication and timeliness and all of that stuff. It's like there's a whole kind of bit of infrastructure that has to happen there. And I don't know that we've established who that person is either on BPAC or at the city. And I mean, Tommy, I'm sure it was a ton of work for your Bike Month stuff, but like that shouldn't be your job or Ben's job or whoever's job to like coordinate the volunteer efforts of folks who want to be involved. So I agree, but at the same time, part of it is my job, like on some of that stuff. Maybe not in writing, but in the overall goal of trying to make our community more bike and walk friendly, part of it is my job. And so like, I would work with BPAC on making that a reality. And there's other people, by the way, in this room, Peter, you know, I'm looking at you, that are already kind of doing some of
It's
these
hard to
things.
get a volunteer to herd cats.
Right.
That's not something that people volunteer for typically.
That one, except for me. I like herding cats. It's kind of cute. I don't be
And when you do,
successful,
there
but
are people, and when you do, they're very valuable.
Right. I also don't see the lift being massive in some of these places. We're not, Bike Month required tons of volunteers and we found ways to lower the capacity by changing some of the event structure, and that worked well compared to 2 years ago. some of these things are like one or two volunteers manning a booth to raise the awareness of BPAC, not, I need you to physically like do something for a certain amount of time, I need 10 of you to do it, you know what I mean, like.
And they're doing 5 things, right? That's part of the job, is to figure out what are we talking to people about? What questions? And anyway, they can only be there with you for 1 or 2 questions in the round. So like, be smart with it. The e-bike one sounds really strategic. Like,
yeah, right.
Maybe here's flyers. Thank you. Have a great day. You know, right? Because that's all the time you.
No, that's a great point. The e-bike, like the e-bike demo might be its own thing, and the BPAC presence is, we're just here to raise the awareness of BPAC. We're here at this event, but we're not helping to orchestrate the event.
Thank you, Ethan. That was a really good point to think about the logistics of how these things happen. So otherwise it won't happen. I want to talk to you afterwards later, some of the time, to figure out how, how much you can do, how much we need to do, and what that looks like. We should end now, I think, to let people get set up for the 6:30 meeting. Don't need to rush to go. But we had some announcements at the start. Does anyone have any urgent announcements?
Yeah, just close by Climate Cafe tomorrow morning, transit takeover, right?
Yep, 9:30 Bradbury. Super. Done.
Yep. Then evening mobility coalitions not having a meeting. We're having a happy hour tomorrow at the Cipher, which is down on Broadway. We're having a tour of the tool library. Brand new. That'll be fun.
4 o'clock.
Is BPAC
4 to 7.
Is BPAC a member of the Alliance?
It is, yeah.
So, by the way.
No, it's a partner.
It's a partner, okay. Well, that's also a component of Week Without Driving, where I feel like it fits really nicely within the Mobility Alliance, just FYI.
Yeah.
And Peter Knight said we need to talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I need lots of volunteers for Loop DeVille, so you can sign up to do that on the website, loopdeville.org. You're gonna be here? You're not gonna be here. We're gonna be here.
Is this your last meeting?
Yes.
Oh.
Oh, thanks, Carlos.
Thank you.
Carlos has been amazing. Like, I feel like I didn't really get to take advantage of him.
Utilize.
Try again, Tommy.
I did see that bike.
Sorry, what was his mileage count on the bike?
He did a lot of work with limited direction, and we're gonna miss him.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, here, I'm gonna end the recording. Thank you all online, and I will see you.
Sorry, you're gonna go. It's on my mind. I just keep forgetting.
Bill, you're welcome.